Madam, please record the meeting.
Okay, you are recording this, right? Yeah. Okay, wonderful. So once again, I wish you all, I'll change my. Sorry for the inconvenience. Once again, very good afternoon. It is not changed.
Madam, good afternoon, madam.
It's wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. I thought you were stuck there. So nice of you. So firstly, I would like to thank my own colleague, young colleague, Dr. A.S. Jalendrachari. And firstly, I would like to, acknowledge him. He is the one, my long wish, some wish was there, my belief was there. And through him, I could fulfill that he and me only know about that. So apart from that, I went to KVs for one as a selection committee member for the PGT teachers, TGT teachers. There I came to know from regional director that she said that, oh, you are from University of Hyderabad, and I know that Dr. Jalendrachari is a best mathematics teacher, best teacher. And my own sister, she's working with Osmania University, Dr. Mrinalini. And when I happened to see her, she also said that a best teacher is with you, Dr. Jalendrachari. So that is how I treat him as my younger brother, and really, I see his commitment, sincerity, and he'll be with the department for long period. So we treat him as a really a backbone for the department. So I love to see him. I was expecting that he may not be in a position to join. He was in very, very important work. This shows his commitment. And Murliji is a principal, wonderful man. I can see a real Radhasarathi, and other teachers. Srinivas Rao Garu is there? Sir, I cannot see you. Fatima?
Yeah, I'm there, ma'am. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm
yes.
here.
Oh, yes. Namaskar, Vandi. Namaskar, Vandi. He's a he's a,
Ma'am, please permit me for 1 minute. Thank you so much, ma'am. And
so nice. I know, sir, you are in very, very crucial work.
To grow in the academics and research. Thank you so much.
So nice of you. So nice of you. So, Tadikonda Srinivas Rao Garu, Fatima, and other my dearest participants, all participants are here. Vasudeva, he is also there, and all other friends are here. Dear friends, we all are teachers. The commonality between all of us is we are teachers. We are teachers. We respect each other. Okay, our priority is our students. We will be dealing two types of students in our life: our own children and our whom we deal. ఇద్దరు రెండు రకాల పిల్లల్ని మనం డీల్ చేస్తూ ఉంటాం. మన పిల్లలకి మనం భోజనం పెట్టగలుగుతున్నామంటే మనం చదువు చెప్తున్న పిల్లల వాళ్ళే, అంతే కదండి? డూ అగ్రీ, ఆల్ ఆఫ్ యూ? డూ యూ అగ్రీ? అగ్రీ విత్ మీ?
Yes, ma'am.
That is the level of commitment we have. Yeah. So yesterday almost 8 hours we struggled how we will make it an program. And sir, so clearly he was talking about how we make the classroom, and how for that, what kind of training is required. So keeping those aspirations of the our Vice Chancellor, Honorable Vice Chancellor, and his thoughts, keeping that in view, we have just designed a small, strategy where you already you have done it. I'm not saying that you are not done. And Murliji, kindly you send the list whatever you have prepared. Kindly you post it in my.
Madam, already have sent you to your WhatsApp, madam.
Great. You are already. I'm telling you, you are a real Radhasarathi.
So, thank you,
without you, we cannot see the program. So wonderful man you are. So this is what I do is, we are 6 faculty members are there. 6. Okay. And here I see the 29 participants, and among the 29, Murliji, you are there or you are extra?
Yeah, I'm there, madam. I'm there.
So 29 plus
Madam, your voice is breaking, madam.
voice is breaking. Okay, now, is it audible? Am I audible to you?
Barely audible, madam.
Okay. Shall I change the system then?
Yeah, better to
What should I
change.
do?
Madam, check your audio settings, madam.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is 100%. 100%,
Yeah.
and the best system
may-
I'm
may-
using.
Yeah, maybe
Okay.
network issue, like.
Okay.
Yeah.
So even single word is not audible to you?
It is, but
It is, but it is fading out.
Fading down. Okay, what can I do? Okay, I'll be bit slow.
Yeah, it's fine now.
1 minute, sir. Respected speaker would like to, sir, Ashish Srivastava sir is online, madam. He will join.
Okay.
Murli sir, please accept his the request, sir.
Fatima, madam.
Yes,
Please
sir.
allow
Yeah.
sir to join.
Yeah.
Okay, now I think we can continue it later also. Okay. Now let us invite the guest and please allow sir to join us. Am I audible, friends?
Yeah,
Am I
madam.
audible? Yeah.
Madam,
Okay. Yeah.
sorry
Sir.
to interrupt you, sir. Ashish Srivastava sir will join at 2 o'clock, madam. And he said,
Okay.
so, okay, fine, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Okay. So nice of you. See, that is what is my colleague's role. Always say he is a facilitator. He's a facilitator, great facilitator in all aspects. Wonderful, sir. Thank you. So here, what me and Dr. Jalindra Shari, both of us, we sat together for almost a few hours and worked for you. This is considering the Murliji's effort, whatever the effort he has put. So I'll clearly tell you 3 points here. One is, among the participants, one person will be the leader of the floor in a particular day. Okay, he will be the leader of the floor. So we call them as a leader. 21 days, 21 leaders will be there. Okay, the leader is, his work starts 1 day before. He will contact the coordinator. It's not the program coordinator, not V2. Whichever the name number is there, that particular faculty, I take it as faculty. Okay, 6 faculty members are coordinating with the sessions.
Recording in progress.
You will contact the person, the concerned faculty, or they will contact you. It is mutual. Don't wait for the others to call you. So your role is, see, we'll send a list of leaders will be there, list of faculty will be there, sessions will be there. So you will contact the faculty, or faculty will contact you, and you will plan for the sessions. Who is going to handle that session and what is the brief biodata about the persons and all. So your work will start just 1 day before, and same day you are the leader of that floor. You will take over. If one session is there, 1 or 2 sessions are there, 2. For complete day, you are the leader. You will be called as a leader. Okay, leader of the day. You will see that reporting is done by the person, and then invite after the lecture. Thank them. Invite. Thank them. Okay. Conclude this.
Madam, it is not audible, madam.
Just now I had taken a class. There is no problem with the class. Now, so you do not listen anything?
Your voice is getting faded, madam.
Yeah. So you can't, I'm not reaching, not at all reaching.
No,
Uh,
coming on and off, madam.
Madam, this is really, not perfect.
Means Srinivas garu, can you please
Please check the chart box, ma'am.
it's breaking. That's it, no, sir?
Somewhere it is stuck.
Now, sir? No, am I audible? Am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Am I audible, please?
Yes, madam.
Yes, ma'am, you're
Madam. Yes,
audible.
madam.
Can I continue? Can I continue?
Yes, madam.
Yes. So one is leader of the day. The second one is editorial committee will be there.
No, madam, something.
Whatever you are doing, the same thing we do. It's an editorial.
Madam, again your voice is breaking, madam.
Okay. So what I do is, you tell me what should I do then? There is
Ma'am,
a net issue.
Ma-
Net
ma'am,
issue
if
is
you-
there.
Madam, if you have an external mic, just connect it and it may help.
But
Madam, if you have joined through laptop or then
Laptop,
please
laptop.
do join with your mobile, madam, once.
okay, okay. That's better. Sir, am I audible now?
Yes,
I'm audible now?
audible.
Yeah. Wonderful.
Yes.
Only here the concern is one is leader will be there for each day. 21 days, 21 leaders will be there. Okay. Anyhow, 2 days we have passed. Whatever the system is there today will continue, and tomorrow's leader you will know by evening. Okay. Me and Jalandhar sir will do that exercise, and we will place everything in the WhatsApp group. Okay. All the chats will keep in the WhatsApp group. So leader will be there per day, and then editorial committee will be there. In the editorial committee, again all the 21 names will be reflected. Okay, the job will not coincide. That's it. The roll number 1, if he is the leader, then 29 will be the editorial board member. He will give the report. Okay, he will do the report, and one more committee will be there. Editorial committee also will be there. That committee is functioning this, and board is there. The third one is board. The board members, 2 members will be there, 2 or 3 members. Okay, they will every day the reports will reach the editorial board. The committee members are every day reporting, all the 21. Okay, and 3 members will be there in the editorial board. The board members will edit every day. They will edit the report. Finally, at the end of the program, you will have the report. you will also see that every day one person will get a chance as the leader. Every day one person will get to write the report and present the report. Okay. Apart from this, one deliverable committee also will be there. That clearly will send you. That committee, what they do is every day they will find out whether the leader and the reporter all are ready or not. They will just check. And if any assignments are given, the assignments will be collected by the deliverable committee members. So there, some 3 members will be there, and in the editorial board, 3 members will be there. 21 persons will be the members in the as a leader list, and also in the editorial committee list. They will be there. So this is how the program will move. Okay. These chats we will put it in the WhatsApp group. Okay. I'll see that how it will be coinciding. Already the roles are given to you, so we'll see that the names will match with that. Okay, that's what I want to say. And let us invite our sir. He is there with us. Or if you have anything to say, you can speak on. Am I clear? Am I clear?
Ma'am,
Yes, ma'am.
ma'am,
Did I reach
you,
you? Yes.
ma'am, you please adjust the webcam, ma'am. Only half of your face is
Okay.
seen.
Okay.
Yeah, now it's fine. Now it's fine.
Okay. Great.
Another thing is, as you said, the floor leaders for each day. In fact, session wise, we have planned and we have sent the session wise floor leaders to you.
Okay. I'll make it as a day-wise leader, sir, because
Yeah,
some
you
of the
can make that.
sessions- Yeah,
Yeah.
some of the sessions are handled by the single resource person. In
That's
some-
fine. Then
Yeah,
then
in
the
some of the
first,
cases, we have 2 resource persons. So it
Fine,
will not make any difference. If one
Yeah,
or
the
two,
first-
the same
the
person will
first
handle.
person, the first person
Only
who
will
is
handle
taking
the
the,
second. Care
Yeah,
of the
the first-
second person also.
yes,
Okay, great. So every day, as you thought, the report person, whoever will prepare the report, they will come and they report the previous days 1 or 2 sessions. Okay,
Yes.
whatever is
yes,
happened.
yes.
So they do the report. Immediately, this part, the deliverable committee will see that the reporter, is he ready for the reporting? After the report, is he ready with the script? The script is reached the editorial board or not. The deliverable committee's role is to check everything, whether it is on track or not. So
Yeah.
now Ji and Srinivas ji will help us. Who are some skills are there for that, right? So who will see that all are on track. So their role is that deliverable committee. So they see that assignments are reaching, whether any clarification is needed. They play a role, bridging the gap everywhere, wherever the flaws are there. They take care of that. 3 members, let us spare for that only. Okay, sir. And
Okay, ma'am.
editorial board is they collect everything and they re-edit everything. Edit. See, we want a very refined report. Okay, so that kind of report, it will be available by the end, the valedictory day, and it should be reflected in our website also, our UOH website. The same day we are sending it, so that perfect it should be. The report should reach our vice chancellor the same day, valedictory. At the end of the valedictory, we add the valedictory points, few points, and then we'll submit the report. That is how it should go. And next day, we are all on our jobs, regular jobs. We are not going to waste our time or do the past work. Okay, sir?
We have already completed for the past 2 days,
I know,
ma'am.
sir. I know. I can see that. That day itself, you are ready with the inaugural thing. I have seen all members, wonderful teachers. You are in such a wonderful manner. You are organized all the things. See, we were doing something, and you are coordinating, and it's like a helping hand, and we were sharing the responsibility. Wonderful coordination. It has a very symbiotic relationship between school and department, and for both sir, like Srinivas ji is there, who is a well-wisher of the department also, right from the beginning he was there, right from
Thank you, ma'am.
the nature of the title of the department. So we are really pleased, and we have a young principal here, and all the very active teachers are there, such an active teachers. Okay, So I think I have reached you. Did I reach you, all the friends? Did I reach you? What I mean to say? Can any one of you sound a little so that I can move forward? Yes. Can you please unmute and tell any one of you?
Ma'am, we could not hear you properly, ma'am.
You can't hear?
Yeah.
Sir,
please repeat.
madam, voice is not clear.
Okay. So what did you understand? At least the committees you understand?
No, ma'am, your voice is breaking.
Yes.
Ma'am, you please come to a place where the signal strength is good.
Yes.
No, I must stop now. Yeah, now is this fine? Is this fine?
Yes, madam.
Yeah. Now you please let us know once again, ma'am, what exactly you.
4 committees. Did I reach you? Did I reach you? I was talking about the 4 committees. Right?
Yes, ma'am. Still it is breaking, madam. Still it is breaking.
Still it is breaking.
See, we are teachers, right? We will try to grasp what the other person is trying to say. So now, the only thing what I can
Absolutely not clear.
now also,
Yeah, it's not working at all. My video is also on. Yes. I have to off it.
yes, am I audible?
No, ma'am.
Am I audible?
Sorry, ma'am.
Am I audible?
Yeah, barely audible, ma'am.
I'll try and listen. Audible?
It's breaking. Breaking, madam. Voice is not so clear. No, once you start speaking, it's breaking, madam.
What I try to say, which will appear in print faster. Okay?
Not clear.
This you can just post it. The platform, WhatsApp.
Nothing is audible, madam.
Just now I have taken the class. There was no complaint about that. Okay, whatever. Now I think you understood a bit. You understood a bit?
Yes, madam.
Yes, 4 committees.
Yes, madam.
Yes, ma'am.
That we put it in the WhatsApp platform, right? If you have any queries, you please ask. Okay?
Yes,
Yeah. Now it's time for the
Okay.
guest to you have to receive the guest, right? So we'll invite the guests. Please allow sir.
Fatima, ma'am, please check.
Sir is there, sir.
Yeah, sir is there,
Sir,
sir.
sir,
It's
sir is
open,
there.
sir. Nothing to allow in there.
Sir,
Sir is there.
Dr. Sumalni, I'm with you now.
Oh, great sir, great sir. Ashish ji, namaskar.
Namaskar, madam. Namaskar.
Yeah, hearty welcome, sir. They are eagerly waiting to listen from you, and the concerned person may kindly invite, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Namaskar.
I'm Murli, principal in charge of the campus school. Yeah, I welcome you. And I invite Hussain sir to give a brief introduction about Ashish Srivastava sir. He is a well-known academician in the field of education.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. I welcome Professor Ashish Srivastava Garu for this in-service training program. Today, it is a great honor for me to introduce him. Professor Ashish Srivastava is a well-known academician in the field of education. He is an alumnus of University of Lucknow, Uttar Pradesh, and Devi Ahalya Vishwavidyalaya, Indore, Madhya Pradesh. A very popular figure among his students since the beginning of his career as a teacher. Professor Srivastava served under University of Lucknow, Amit University, Uttar Pradesh, before getting appointment simultaneously in prestigious universities of India, that is Banaras Hindu University, Varanasi, Uttar Pradesh, and Vishwa Bharati, a central university and an institution of national importance, Shantiniketan, West Bengal in 2010. Professor Srivastava chose to serve the ashram of Nobel laureate Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore, that is Vishwa Bharati, and served it in different capacities for almost a decade before joining Mahatma Gandhi Central University, Motihari, East Champaran, Bihar, as Professor of Education. Professor Srivastava has vast and rich experience of traveling and delivering lectures to different prestigious universities and institutions of education of different across India. Professor Srivastava is a founder, head, and dean of Department of Education Studies, School of Education in Mahatma Gandhi Central University. Professor Srivastava is a member of several board of studies in education, school boards of education, and in several committees across the universities of India. Professor Srivastava is dynamically engaged with the different assignments of UGC, ICSSR, NCTE, NCRT, etc. Professor Srivastava has been awarded the Maya Gold Foundation Award for Excellence and Service as a Young Academic Leader on September 5th, 2020, that is last year on Teachers' Day, by the Maya Gold Foundation, New Lodge, New York, United States of America. Professor Srivastava is a prolific speaker and has delivered more than 200 lectures across the universities of India so far. Professor Srivastava is having a plenty of publications to his credit, and his area of interest is education policies and programs. Sir, we welcome you for the service training program, and I thank Murali sir, and I thank the DITE coordinators, Dr. Sumalini and Dr. Gangachari, for giving me this opportunity to introduce a great speaker and teacher. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Hussain Saab. Thank you so much for giving this elaborate introduction. Before I begin, let me know whether I'm audible and visible enough.
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Fine, fine. Thank you so much. So at the outset, first of all, let me congratulate this wonderful university, this wonderful department for organizing this much needed event, much needed program. And therefore, I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks and congratulations to a very good friend of mine, Dr. Sumalini ji, Dr. Murli ji, Dr. Jalandhar ji, and Dr. Madhusudan ji. And all my colleagues who are attending this program today through this virtual dais. So my dear friends, my dear colleagues, what issue I have chosen to discuss with you is reimagining curriculum and pedagogy in relation to NEP 2020. Reimagining curriculum and pedagogy. And I have chosen this issue intentionally because right now, irrespective of our status, irrespective of our strata, irrespective of our level, irrespective of our experience, irrespective of anything, we are involved in revisiting curriculum, revisiting pedagogy, revisiting assessment, revisiting student support as expected by National Education Policy 2020. So in this context, again, I congratulate this wonderful department, this wonderful principal of this university campus to having conceived this kind of idea and arranging such exposure for our colleagues from different parts of the state and country. My dear friends, my dear colleagues, before I begin, let me share with you, because you all are teachers, you all are having teaching experience. Some of you I can see are highly experienced, I can see. So my dear friends, we all are aware on concerns of education. We all are aware on the avenues of education. We all are aware on different prospects of education, different scope of education, ultimately the contribution of education to the society. And my dear friends, my dear colleagues, we are aware on such concerns of education. If you remember Tagore, Gandhi, Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, Thiruvalluvar, and many more, the list is very long. So we are aware on these concerns of education, and these concerns of education were shared. I am highlighting for your clarity sake. These concerns on education were shared to us prior to the labeling of 21st century as the century of knowledge. Prior to the labeling of 21st century as the century of knowledge. We all are aware that we have given a label to this 21st century as century of knowledge. So it is not that since we have given this century as century of knowledge, and now we are becoming so much concerned for education. This is not at all true, so far as at least I can say India is concerned, because we have a rich legacy, age-old legacy, thousands years back legacy. So these concerns on education were shared prior to the labeling of 21st century as the century of knowledge. And therefore, I have used the term reimagining, revamping, revisiting, rethinking only in terms of the needs and requirements of 21st century demands and needs. And my dear friends, these concerns of education, these concerns were shared prior to the labeling of 21st century, the century of knowledge is one. And my dear friends, before the level of education in the community was recognized as an index of human development. I'm repeating for your clarity, Sheikh, once again. We are aware on these concerns of education before the level of education in the community was recognized as an index of human development. Divya Ashish ji, आप mute कर लीजिए, please. Can you mute yourself? Is it?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So, I just wanted to make a point, and I just wanted to draw a point in front of you that we are aware on these concerns of education, and I have shared two issues. One, these concerns of education were shared prior to the labeling of 21st century as the century of knowledge, and second, before the level of education in the community was recognized as an index of human development. And my dear friends, when I'm saying as an index of human development, I believe that many of you are aware of the report of UNDP. The name of the report is Human Development Report 1990. Human Development Report 1990. I am very much intentionally using this report because this report has brought a paradigm shift. And as a teacher, and when I am referring to the teacher, irrespective of your level, irrespective of your strata, irrespective of anything, teacher is a teacher. Whether it's a school pre-primary teacher or primary teacher or upper primary teacher or secondary teacher or higher secondary or university or whatever it is. So when I'm referring to the teacher, every teacher needs to make himself or herself aware on all such interventions which affect our classroom life, which affect our ecosystem of the education overall. And therefore, my dear friends, I believe that many of you must be aware of this report, UNDP's report, HDR 1990, Human Development Report 1990. And why I am referring this report? Because this report has brought a paradigm shift. This report has brought a paradigm shift. And this paradigm shift affected our ecosystem of education. What was that paradigm shift? Let us understand this first. What was that paradigm shift? So earlier to this report of 1990, HDR 1990, we used to use GDP so far as measuring the development of any nation is concerned. But this report introduced the concept of HDI, Human Development Index. Human Development Index. So this report of UNDP, which I am referring again and again, HDR 1990, introduced a paradigm shift, brought a paradigm shift in the form of introducing the concept of HDI in place of GDP, so far as measuring development of any nation is concerned. So when this document brought this paradigm shift in the form of HDI, my dear friends, my dear colleagues, it was said that HDI, this HDI will be measured in absolute value 1. This HDI will be measured in absolute value 1. That means whatever country, whichever country is going to secure 1 completely 1.0, that will be treated as the fully developed nation. Now, in this sequence, if you refer to the report of HDR 1991, you will be finding Japan was on top of the world, and India was much below in the list, somewhere around 140. So, my dear friends, I am taking you again to this report 1990, which introduced the concept of HDI. This HDI was supposed to be measured in absolute value 1. Now the question arises, what we are going to measure in absolute for HDI? What we are going to measure for HDI? So initially, 3 parameters were taken into consideration. 3 parameters were taken into consideration. What were those parameters? The parameter 1 was purchasing power of the citizen of that nation. Purchasing power of the citizen of that nation. उस देश के लोगों की purchasing power कैसी है. Second parameter was health of the citizen of that nation. And the third issue was considered education. So, my dear friends, I am not going to discuss on purchasing power. I will not be discussing on health. I am going to take only third parameter, education, and I would like to draw your attention how these international interventions or national interventions or state level interventions or local level interventions affect our classrooms, affect our daily discourses, affect our ecosystem of education, whatever system. You can refer primary system, you can refer secondary system, elementary system, teacher training system, higher education system, this system, that system, whatever system. So, my dear friends, so when this concept was brought of Human Development Index, it was said that it will be measured in absolute value 1, and 3 major parameters were taken into consideration. Purchasing power of the citizen of that nation was 1, health of the citizen of that nation was 2, and education was 3. Now, what in education? What in education? So initially, the idea of GER was taken into consideration. Idea of GER. What is GER? Gross enrollment ratio. See, for last more than 1.5 years, I am interacting with my machine. Fortunately, I'm very happy to see that all of you have switched on your videos. So today I am getting feeling that I am interacting with human beings. Otherwise, I have developed a habit of interacting with my machine. So because of this technology is giving a boon, is a helpful asset, but it has several limitations also. So limitation is we cannot interact very frequently. So in this duration, during my deliberations, I will be asking the question and I will be answering also. I will be answering also. So, my dear friends, this HDI was brought, and the third parameter I was discussing, education. So what in education? GER. What is GER? Gross enrollment ratio. Gross enrollment ratio. Now look, if you look back, if you go into the flashback, you will be finding that the decade of 1990 and decade of 2000, every government is running behind quantification, whether in the form of DPEP, Operation Blackboard, Rashtriya Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan, Rashtriya Madhyamik Shiksha Abhiyan, Rashtriya Uchchar Shiksha Abhiyan, Right to Education Act. So you will be witnessing many efforts. Why? Because India has to upgrade itself into the list of developed nation. So India is supposed to work on purchasing power, on health and education. In education, what India is supposed to do? Increase GER, and therefore you can see the focus, emphasis on quantification. And now we have a learning lesson from these 2 decades, because we missed on several quality parameters. When we ran behind quantification, we missed on several quality parameters. Now, my dear friends, because I want to create proper context before entering into reimagining curriculum and pedagogy, I would like to share with you. I don't know how many of you are aware on clause 23. Clause 23. So when I'm referring to this clause 23, I'm sure because you all are teacher, you will be aware of this clause. Many of you will be aware of clause 23. So I am going to tell you the journey of this clause 23 in 2 segments. One, when our constitution was being written, and second, when our constitution was made final. So my dear friends, when our constitution was being developed, when our constitution was being written, you will be happy to know, you will be surprised to know, those who are not aware, that initially education was kept under justiciable rights, that is fundamental rights. Clause 23 was the clause. So initially, when our, mind my words, when our constitution was being framed, when our constitution was being formulated, education was kept under justiciable right under clause 23, under clause 23. Now, before making our constitution final, there was a subcommittee having 3 members. There was a subcommittee having 3 members. Who were the members? A.K. Iyer, M. Ratna Swamy, and Govind Ballabh Pant. So these were the 3 members. So this subcommittee was having 3 members. So when our right now I am discussing when our constitution was being framed. So when our constitution was being framed, education was kept under justiciable right in clause 23. And in order to make our constitution final, especially to look into this clause, there was a 3-member subcommittee having members A.K. Iyer, M. Ratna Swamy, and Govind Ballabh Pant. These members debated, discussed, argued, and finally, my dear friends, they came out with the same conclusion which was drawn by Macaulay itself. What was Macaulay's conclusion? We don't have resources, we don't have money, we don't have environment, we don't have human resources. So these were the Macaulay's excuses. So this committee came up with the almost similar excuses that India has recently got its independent. There might be a problem while keeping education under rights, and resources are not there, in proper environment or not there, etc., etc. And finally, clause 23 was deleted. Clause 23 was deleted. And now you can, because you all are teachers, you can easily understand this deletion was not so easy deletion. So when our constitution became final, when our constitution was made final, the clause 23, which was deleted, now after making constitution final, you can see that clause now in part 4 of the Indian Constitution, that is directive principles, in the article 45. So whatever article 45 we have seen, initially it was clause 23 under justiciable rights. So article 45, now this shifting was not so easy shifting, and therefore this article 45 was given a sense of urgency by adding a time frame to it. This article 45 was given a sense of urgency by adding a time frame to it. What was that time frame? The time frame was of 10 years. And it was said that from the date of implementing this Indian Constitution, within 10 years, we will be achieving the intent of Article 45. And with this intention, we all know that our Constitution was adopted in 1950, 26th January 1950. By this condition, we should have achieved the intent of Article 45 by 1960. But 1960 gone, 1970 gone, 1980 gone, 1990 gone, and my dear friends, my dear colleagues, none of the Indian state could achieve the intent of Article 45. Now, in this sequence, I would like to draw your attention on the year, specifically 1990, and then the 2 decades of 1990 decade and 2000 decade. Why I am focusing on 1990? Because UNTP brought its report with a paradigm shift by introducing the concept of HDI in 1990. You can witness the World Conference at Jomitian in 1990, which has a serious implications for universalization of education. You can see the remarks, the very valuable remark of Acharya Ramamurthy in 1990. You can see the induction of DPEP program in 1990. And therefore, I would like to draw your attention over the importance of year 1990. Now look at the decade of 1990. You will be finding a case, very popular case. And whenever I discuss with the teachers, irrespective of status, irrespective of strata, whenever I discuss with teachers, I request them to read, to go through the judgment of this case, which is available at internet. And the case was J.P. Unnikrishnan versus State of Andhra Pradesh. J.P. Unnikrishnan versus State of Andhra Pradesh case, 1993 Supreme Court judgment. You must read this judgment. Why I'm insisting why you must read this judgment? Because judgment is very beautifully articulated. So in this case, J.P. Unnikrishnan versus State of Andhra Pradesh case, Supreme Court says, what Supreme Court says is, it says that Indian Constitution gives Article 21. Indian Constitution gives Article 21. What is this Article 21? We all know that Article 21 is right to life with dignity. Right to life with dignity. So Supreme Court says the Indian Constitution gives Article 21, which says right to life with dignity. And then Supreme Court argues that what kind of right to life with dignity you are expecting without providing education as a fundamental right. What kind of right to life with dignity you are expecting without providing education as a fundamental right. And in order to substantiate this statement, Supreme Court takes example from Gita, from Quran, from Bible, from different religious scriptures, that without education, without siksha, without ilm, what kind of right to life with dignity you are expecting. So when the Supreme Court gave this kind of statement, Government of India formulated a committee. I am sure you all must be knowing that about that committee, Saikia Committee in 1996. That Saikia Committee was set up in 1996, which submitted its report in January 1997, where Saikia Sahab says, the Saikia Committee report says that this is the high time when we need to give education as a fundamental right. And therefore, we propose, listen me carefully, therefore, we propose 83rd Amendment of the Indian Constitution. And my dear colleagues, my dear friends, you all must be knowing that this actually was done by 86th Amendment. So when Saikia Committee proposed, it was 83rd Amendment, but by the time kuch aur amendments ho gaye honge, so it was done by 86th Amendment, through 86th Amendment. So finally, 86th Amendment brought this 21A into in. Now, in order to discuss the decade of 1990, I would like to discuss one more important juncture of this decade, that is GATS. GATS, GATS. I don't know how many of you are aware on GATS. It's a heavy implication for system of education. So, my dear friends, my dear colleagues, in 1995, India became signatory of GATS. General Agreement on Trades and Services. India became signatory of GATS, General Agreement on Trades and Services. Now, many of you may have a question in your mind that what education is supposed to do with this GATS? What education is supposed to do with GATS? So it has very much relevance. Why? Because GATS, when I'm saying GATS, General Agreements on Trades and Services. When I'm saying trade, education is not a trade. But when I'm saying services, my dear friends, my dear colleagues, 12 services were identified. 12 services were identified, and education was considered as one of the 12 services. Since education was considered as one of the services, therefore it was brought under the purview of GATS. And as soon as education came under the purview of GATS, all the consequences of GATS started affecting the education system also. What was that consequences? We all know. LPG, liberalization, privatization, globalization, which was the outcome of this overall liberal effort, which was introduced by GATS, General Agreement on Trades and Services. So since 1995, when I deliver lecture on National Education Policy 2020, many a time I had to face one question from the audience side, that don't you see privatization in the field of education triggered by this policy? So I again make them aware that go back to the root. So it is 1995 when we became signatory of GATS. Education was considered as one of the services. Since education was considered as one of the services, it was brought under the GATS, and as a result, all the consequences of GATS in the form of liberalization, privatization, globalization has entered and now expanding in the field of education. Other than these 2 decades, there are 2 more issues which as a teacher you must be aware of all the time. You must be aware of, and many of you will be aware of already. One is 42nd Amendment of Indian Constitution in 1976. 42nd Amendment of Indian Constitution in 1976. When I'm referring to 42nd Amendment, I'm sure you must be knowing that this particular amendment brought education into concurrent list. This particular amendment brought education into concurrent list. Earlier to this amendment, education was used to subject of state only. But this 42nd Amendment of Indian Constitution brought education into concurrent list. And one more amendment you need to make yourself aware on, 73rd Amendment of Indian Constitution, which introduced decentralization of power. Decentralization of power. So all such efforts, amendments, policies, commissions, committees, etc., affect our ecosystem of education, affects our curriculum, affects our pedagogy, affects our assessment. But many a time we we will not in a position to make ourselves aware on such changes. So in a nutshell, my dear friends, my dear colleagues, I just wanted to draw your attention that somebody is unmuted. P. Sujata ji. Sujata ji, please unmute yourself, mute yourself. So it is only after constitutional amendment, my dear friends. It is only after constitutional amendment. It is only after constitutional amendment and insertion of fundamental right in Article 21A, along with corresponding amendments in Article 45 and 51A, reinforced the situation a little. And now we are having 2020 policy in our hand. And if we can capitalize the momentum of National Education Policy 2020, it can lead, it can take us to anywhere. And why I am focusing on this implementation of NEP 2020? Because, my dear friends, earlier we made several mistakes, several blunders, whatever it is. But now we are at a threshold in a sense that we are having demographic dividend. I'm sure you all must be knowing the importance of demographic dividend, and India is a nation of youth. And if we could not implement, all such intent and content, either by ministry or by regulatory body or by university or by state boards or by schools or by colleges or by teachers, then we will be losing on so far as the benefits of demographic dividends are concerned. Demographic dividends are concerned, and therefore we need to be more careful now. Now, my dear friends, my dear colleagues, if you look at the so to say policy journey of India, you will be surprised to know that when we got independence in 1947, just after independence, the University Education Commission was set up in 1948-49, which was chaired by Dr. Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan ji. The Commission was very good. The people involved were very good. The report was very good, outstanding everything. But the timing, just after independence, University Education Commission was set up. Then in 1952-53, Secondary Education Commission under the chairmanship of Professor Mudaliar was set up. 1952-53, and then, my dear friends, it took us around 18 years to reach to that commission, which we should have been set up in just after independence. I am referring now the Kothari Commission, that is Education Commission in 1964-66. And my dear friends, my dear colleagues, this Kothari Commission was the first commission of independent India which took care of all these strata of education, be it primary, pre-primary education, primary education, secondary, higher education, technical education, vocational education, agricultural education. All strata of education was taken care by Kothari Commission during 1964-66. And on the basis of Kothari Commission's report, India as an independent nation got its first policy, however incomplete, in 1968. So in 1968, India got its first national education policy, 1968, after 21 years of independence. After 21 years of independence. Then if you look at this journey, when this journey moves ahead, you will be finding that in 1976, some another government took over in power. And since this was the different government, so they said that now we have come into the power, we will be taking care of education. And in order to take care of this education, they made their own education policy. And before they could have implemented, the government fell down. Therefore, that policy is known as Draft National Education Policy 1979. Unfortunately, my dear friends, my dear colleagues, many of us do not ever see that report of that draft. And what I personally believe is we should see all such drafts to make our understanding broader, to make our understanding, to make ourselves understand the different perspective and different contexts. Now, if you move further, in 1984, Rajiv Gandhi took over as a prime minister. And then public opinion, massive public opinion was sought. And on the basis of a screening of those opinions, there came a wonderful document, which I repeatedly refer to all my colleagues to have a glance view over that document. That document will give you enough insight, sufficient insight in to be a kind of teacher who can handle every situation in any context. So that document is Challenges of Education, A Perspective, 1985. Challenges of Education, A Perspective, 1985. Then on the basis of this document and on the basis of all previous efforts, we have formulated our National Education Policy 1986 after 39 years of independence. But before we could have implemented this policy of 1976, this policy went for revision. And finally, my dear friends, my dear colleagues, it came in 1992 along with its program of action. Now, in a true sense, if you look at the situation, in a true sense, India got its first policy on education after 45 years of independence, 4.5 long decades, 45 years of independence. We have got our 1992. Now we are having 2020 policy in our hand. And as a teacher, we all are supposed to understand the overall context, overall perspective in order to convert actually meaningfully the intent and content of National Education Policy 2020 into actionable action. Before I move further, let me share with you a very interesting line by Humayun Kabir. And I like these lines like anything. Wherever I get a new set of teachers, new set of audience, I often quote in all my lectures, you will be finding that I quote Humayun Kabir. What he says, this is a wonderful line. Humayun Kabir says, if an engineer commits a mistake, Humayun Kabir says, if an engineer commits a mistake, then it ends with the maximum of damage of bridge or building. If a doctor commits a mistake, then it ends with the maximum of patient's life. But if a teacher commits a mistake, then it never ends. It ends with generations' loss. So when I share this, just to draw your attention, what kind of importance a teacher is carrying on their shoulder. So if an engineer commits a mistake, then it ends with the maximum of damage of bridge or building. If a doctor commits a mistake, then it ends with the maximum of patient's life. But if a teacher commits a mistake, then it never ends. It ends with generations' loss. Generations' loss. And whenever I share these lines from Humayun Kabir, immediately I refer one sarcasm of Swami Ranganathanand. One sarcasm. What was that sarcasm? That sarcasm is interesting. So once Swamiji was asked, Swamiji, what is education? Swamiji, what is education? The reply is really interesting. And the reply is a kind of sarcasm. So when he was asked, Swamiji, what is education? Swamiji replied, Swamiji said, education is something mysterious. Education is something mysterious which passes from lecture note of a teacher to the notebook of a student using, you can see on the video, using pen without using the mind of either. So when Swami Ranganathan made this sarcasm, it has a serious implications for us so far as our pedagogical inputs are concerned. And when I share Humayun Kabir, when I share Swami Ranganathanan, immediately I share one of my very favorite joke. And this is a post-lunch session. I think you need a joke also. So joke goes like this. There were two deafs. Deafs, those who cannot listen. There were two deafs. So the first one asked another, friend, are you going to the market? So the second one replied, no, I am going to the market. So the first one said, oh, I thought you are going to the market. And when I share this joke, not at all to make my audience laugh, but to make a point that in teaching learning process, in research process, in policy implementation and formulation process, somewhere we behave like these two deafs. Let me substantiate this. So I am going to tell you one statement. So you have to write that statement in the chat box. I am going to tell you one statement. It's very one line, small half line statement. You have to write that statement in the chat box. But my dear colleagues, before I share that statement, I am giving you two cautions. Number one, whatever I'll be speaking 100% correct. Number one, caution number one. Caution number two, Whatever I will be saying, you have to write that only. You have to write that only. Now write 10 horses have 24 legs. 10 horses have 24 legs. 10 horses have 24 legs. Somebody wrote my caution to Daddy Kunda. Okay. As expected. Now, my dear friends, I was trying to substantiate my joke. Mahbub Hussain Sahab, I appreciate you. Wonderful. So this is after a
Thank you.
longest gap. I received the right response. Okay, my dear friends, I am writing this. In fact, I am copying that response. Oh, there are many responses now. So I'm typing this response. So I have typed it. 10 horses have 24 legs. See, 10 horses have 24 legs. 4 means front legs. 10 horses cannot have 24. So the thing is, I shared that joke to make a point here. Yes, 4 legs. To make a point here. What was that point? Point was, when I shared that statement with you, I was sharing from my own perspective. When you listened to me from your own perspective. And many of you wrote from your perspective, whatever you perceived. And in classroom situation, in research situation, whenever we'll be in a position, whenever we'll be in a position to reduce this, Hussain sahab, aapko mute karna hoga. Thank you. So when, as a teacher, if we can reduce this gap, the joke of 2 deafs can be taken care. See, we all are teachers. I gave you 2 cautions. In spite of that caution, 10 horses, 24 legs. So this was a point I wanted to draw in front of you. My dear friends, my dear colleagues, one thing I would like to share more here in this sequence, in this that relates to Professor D.S. Kothari. Now you all know Professor Kothari, 64-66 commission. Chairman of that commission was Professor Kothari. Kothari sahab submitted his report in 1966. After submitting his report in 1966, somewhere after 2 decades, Professor Kothari visited Delhi to deliver some lecture. There, Professor Kothari was asked a question by a professor. What was that question? And you just listen the question, you just listen the answer. It will give you enough insight and it will give you enough messages. So the question of the professor was, Professor Kothari, if you would have been given chance today, what changes would you like to bring in your report? What changes would you like to bring in your report? Kothari sahab was a highly intellectual person. So Professor Kothari said that I would like to bring only one change. And I would like to replace only one word rather from my whole report. One word. Ek shabd keval badlunga main. What was that word? So he said, now I will be changing the one word from the name of the report itself. Now, instead of keeping education and national development, Now I will be keeping education and character development, because I have understood that the real trouble of India is character. Because I have understood that the real trouble with India is character. And if we can shape the character, if we can groom the character, if we can make the character, national development is bound to happen. National development is bound to happen. So with this, these are few issues, which I wanted to discuss with you as a context, creating context. Now, my dear friends, when we are going to reimagining the curriculum, reimagining the pedagogy, as a teacher, I would like to insist you to keep in mind two words, and you on the as a practice of daily basis, as a daily basis practice, if we can ensure the difference between the entering behavior and terminal behavior. So these two terms I am introducing here, in entering behavior and terminal behavior. These two terms you are aware of. I'm damn sure you are aware of these two terms, entering behavior and terminal behavior. What is entering behavior? What is terminal behavior? So before entering into your classroom, whatever behavior students are having is known as entering behavior. Once you entered into the classroom, you interact with them for 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 50 minutes, 1 hour, 30 minutes, 2 hours, whatever it is. After your interaction, they are changed student now. So whatever changes, whether it is a change of one word, one concept, one definition, one attitude, whatever it is. If as a teacher, we can ensure on daily basis the differences between entering behavior to terminal behavior, entering behavior and terminal behavior, we will be the best teachers across the globe. Now, my dear friends, I am reminding here Winston Churchill. Winston Churchill. I'm sure you must be knowing this name, Winston Churchill. Winston Churchill used to say, I like to learn, but hate to be taught. I like to learn, but hate to be taught. I'm sure you can understand the essence of this statement. I like to learn, but hate to be taught. And similarly, Albert Einstein used to say, I never teach my pupil. I never teach my pupil. I only attempt to provide conditions in which they can learn. And when I have already quoted Winston Churchill, I have already quoted Albert Einstein. Now, my dear friends, let me quote Swami Vivekananda ji, who gave a wonderful and very easy analogy to make us understand on this point. Swamiji once said, you cannot grow a tree by putting the seed on your palm. You cannot grow a tree by putting the seed on your palm. And in a similar manner, you cannot teach also. So if you want to make that seed grow into a plant, what you are supposed to do? You are supposed to sow the seed, protect it, water, sunlight, etc., protect it. So that means you are working as a facilitator. And similar analogy is there for teacher also, that you need to work as a facilitator. So what Winston Churchill is saying, what Albert Einstein is saying, what Vivekananda is saying, and you will be finding that all the greatest thinkers, all the thinkers who can imagine, who understands the spirit of education, they will be focusing in a same tone and in the same sense. My dear friends, now let me share with you the essence of, not essence of, in actual word, in fact, right, I am going to share with you section 1.16 of a report of Kothari Commission, that is Education Commission 1964-66. And my dear friends, I would like to request you to read, because I don't have much time in my hand. So I will not be reading the whole section. This section is available at internet. You can read that whole section later. Here I am going to share few important, very important line on which a teacher is supposed to make herself or himself very much clear and categorical. Section 1.16 of Kothari Commission's report, that is Education Commission, section 1.16. What it says, let me share with you. That section 1.16 says that the naive belief that all education is necessarily good. The naive belief that all education is necessarily good, both for the individual and for society, and that it will necessarily lead to progress. Now listen me very carefully. And that it will necessarily lead to progress can be as harmful as it is misplaced. I'm repeating for your clarity, Sheikh, once again. The naive belief that all education is necessarily good, both for the individual and for the society, and that it will necessarily lead to progress can be as harmful as it is misplaced. And then further Kothari Sahab writing, quantitatively, education can be organized to promote social justice or to retard it. History shows numerous instances where small social groups and elites have used education as a prerogative of their rule and as a tool for maintaining their hegemony and perpetuating the values upon which it has rested. Then it says, on the other hand, there are cases in which a social and cultural revolution has been brought about in a system where equality of educational opportunity is provided and education is deliberately used to develop more and more potential talent and to harness it to the solution of national problems. And then last line he's writing, the same is even more true. The same is even more true of the quality of education. So that is why I request you to understand education in its right perspective, right context. And this statement of Kothari Commission, which I have shared with you, especially the beginning lines where it says the now believe that all education is necessarily good, both for the individual and for the society, and that it will necessarily lead to progress, can be as harmful as it is misplaced. And therefore, we need to understand the proper context. And therefore, my dear friends, my dear colleagues, we are discussing reimagining curriculum and pedagogy. And when I'm sharing curriculum and using the term pedagogy, let me put myself in a very clear and categorical frame. It is the high time. This is the high time when we need not only to share pedagogy, but this is the high time when we need to understand, make our reflection, make our understanding on andragogy also and heutagogy also. So pedagogy, andragogy, heutagogy. Because national education policy is going to utilize all the three. So as a teacher, when we are aware on all these things, whether it is pedagogy or andragogy or heutagogy, and in my small experience and understanding and observation by interacting with the different colleagues from different parts of India, I have noticed that many of us are not aware on the andragogy and heutagogy. Those who are aware on pedagogy, few of them are aware on andragogy, but very few are aware on heutagogy. So when I'm sharing these terms, in a nutshell, I'm telling you that child-centered, student-centered is pedagogy, adult-centered is andragogy, and self-directed learning-centered is heutagogy. And therefore, when we will be understanding this pedagogy, andragogy, heutagogy, then so when I'm saying pedagogy, andragogy, heutagogy, this is the high time when we need to understand that our students are not a part of any machine. Rather, they are a human being having unfolded potential, having unfolded possibilities, having unfolded energies. So we need to understand very clearly and categorically, irrespective of level, irrespective of strata, that our students, our children are not at all a part and parcel of a machine, where this is a machine, this is that part, we are going to develop this part, we will be fitting this part into this machine, and now this whole machine will be working. This is not at all like that, which we have made blunder mistake during last 7.5 decades. So our student, our children are having unfolded possibilities, unfolded energies, unfolded avenues. We need to consider them like this, and we need to work on them like this. And therefore, in order to understand this, in order to execute this, we need to revisit. What we need to revisit? We need to revisit our aims. We need to revisit our content. We need to revisit our pedagogy. We need to revisit our assessment, which I am using abbreviation ACPA. Aim, content, pedagogy, assessment, ACPA. And we need to understand the importance of levels of teaching at memory level, at understanding level, at reflective level. We need to understand the importance of phases of teaching, the pre-active phase, the interactive phase, and the post-active phase. We need to understand all the major pedagogical approaches, whether it is constructivist approach or collaborative approach or integrative approach or reflective approach. Why we are going to revisit, and why we what is our intention behind? Because, my dear friends, my dear colleagues, now, because we all are teachers, and we understand that knowledge is not power. I'm sure you must be shocking hearing this, knowledge is not power. So let me elaborate it. We often are told that knowledge is power. Knowledge is power. We often told like this only, but we need to understand that not really. It is not really. Knowledge is information. Knowledge is information. It is potential power, and it becomes power only when it is acted upon. And it is power only when it is acted upon. And this is very true in case of National Education Policy 2020 also. For example, my dear colleagues, my dear friends, what is the difference between a person who cannot read and a person who can but does not read? I think now you are understanding, you must be understanding my point, which I made: knowledge is not power. So what is the difference between a person? You can imagine this difference. What is the difference between a person who cannot read and a person who can but does not read? So, my dear friends, my dear colleagues, because we all are teachers at different forums, we are used to face such kind of content. Learning is not like eating. It is not how much you eat that matters. What matters is how much you digest. So now let me put my words again in a proper manner. Knowledge is potential power. Knowledge is potential power, while wisdom is real power. Knowledge is potential power, while wisdom is real power. And when I'm discussing this, I'm reminding in background of mind the poem of T.S. Eliot, where T.S. Eliot Sahab says, "Where is the wisdom? We have lost in knowledge. Where is the knowledge? We have lost in information." Thank you, Divya Ashish ji. So where is the knowledge? We have lost in information. So we need to understand. And when I'm referring to this perspective, when I'm referring to T.S. Eliot, don't think me that I'm outdated person. Now I'm taking example from total quality management, because this is the latest concept we are discussing in different spectrum of education. So total quality management in education, I am taking one example in a similar tone from total quality management in education. So under total quality management in education, nowadays we are referring taxonomy of educatedness. Taxonomy of educatedness. Now, what is this taxonomy of educatedness? So this taxonomy of educatedness talks about the whole issue in 4 stages. 4 stages. Taxonomy of educatedness deals in 4 stages. The first stage is informed. The first stage is informed. The second stage is cultured. The third stage is emancipated. The fourth stage is self-realized. Miraz Fatima, you can allow him to see. No issues. Under total quality management in education, it talks about in 4 stages. Informed is 1, cultured is 2, emancipated is 3, and self-realized is 4th. Now, my dear friends, this self-realization is different from philosophical self-realization. Here, self-realization means what a man can do, must do. What a man can do, must do. As a teacher, when we entered into the classes, and if you are having 20, 30, 40, 50, whatever number it is, a group of students, each students are different from each other. We know these terms by individual differences. Individual differences are there, and these individual differences are there on the basis of personality, interest, attitude, aptitude, creativity, intelligence, study habit, and there are many more parameters. So self-realization of taxonomy of educatedness under total quality management says what a man can do, must do. Whatever potential he is having, accordingly he need to place. What a man can do. As a teacher, we need to ensure this. And that is why I was referring to this. Knowledge is only potential power. Wisdom is real power. Education takes many forms. It is not just grades and a degree. Now we need to make it, because if you look at the Indian legacy, you will be finding the same sense, same tone, cultivating your students' strength, making them learn the self-discipline, making them listen, making them eager to learn. So if we could brought such changes while revisiting our curriculum, while revisiting our pedagogy, while revisiting our assessment, it will be a kind of. Let me share with you one story. And when I'm going to share this story, now I will be linking this story to section 1.16 of Kothari, which I have shared with you just now. So in order to substantiate that section 1. Rather, I should say, in order to substantiate that section 1.16 statement, I am going to share with you a story. And this is a very common story. You must be knowing this story. So story goes like this. This story is about a man who sold hot dogs by the roadsides. He was illiterate, so he never read newspapers. He was hard of hearing, so he never listened to the radio. His eyes were weak, so he never watched the television. But enthusiastically, he sold lots of hot dogs on daily basis. The sale and the profit went up regularly. So he ordered more meat and got himself a bigger and better stove. His business was growing. When his business started growing, he was having one son. And he sent his son for his education. So when he went to education and when he came back and joined his father, something strange has happened then. The son asked that, "Dad, aren't you aware of great recession that is coming our way? Aren't you aware of that great recession?" So the father replied, "No, I have not heard it, but you tell me about it." Because he has received high education from prestigious college. So the son said, "The international situation is terrible. The domestic situation is even more worse. we should be prepared for the coming bad times. And then the man thought that since his son had been to college, read the papers, listened to the radio, he ought to know, and his advice should not be taken lightly. So the next day, the father cut down his order for the meat and buns, took down the sign, and was no longer as enthusiastic. Very soon, fewer and fewer people bothered to stop at his stall, and his sales started coming down rapidly. And the father said to his son, "Son, you are right. Son, you are right. We are in the middle of a recession. I am glad you warned me ahead of time." This is a very common story, very popular story. You must have read somewhere. So what is the moral of that story is, our expectations can create a self-fulfilling prophecy. We can infer many times we confuse intelligence with good judgment. A person, we can infer a person may have high intelligence but poor judgment. And that's next is, choose your advisors very carefully, but use your own judgment. And therefore, when we look at education in a very broader perspective, then we focus on the 5 C's. 1 C I have already taken from Kothari Sahib: character, commitment, conviction, courtesy, and courage. Character, commitment, conviction, courtesy, and courage. But unfortunately, the tragedy is that there are many walking encyclopedias who are living failures. So we as a teacher, look at education, look at curriculum, look at pedagogy from this kind of understanding, that what is our expected outcome? Are we clear what kind of society we are going to create? What kind of citizen we are going to develop? So when you will be having that kind of ideas, then your curriculum will be having original content. You will not be copying from Western countries, European countries, American countries, etc., etc. And therefore, again, I am quoting here Winston Churchill, who used to say that the first duty of an educational institution is to teach wisdom, not trade. The first duty of an educational institution is to teach wisdom, not trade. They need to teach character, not technicalities. Why we are making all such efforts? Why we are making all such efforts, my dear friends? Because of an ultimate aim to achieve quality education. If you look at national education policy, whatever effort we are making, ultimately, if I ask you to summarize in one word destination, that is quality education. Now, when I'm saying quality, I'm sorry, I'm having little pain in my throat, so I'm taking warm water again and again. So it is creating a break or affecting my flow. So quality. Somebody saying something?
I said it is a must for the speaker. Actually, there's nothing wrong. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So we are trying to reach to a destination, one word destination, that is quality. Now, my dear friends, my dear colleagues, let me share an interesting thing with you, that whenever we talk about quality, we all know that quality has been the goal of an eternal quest through the corridors of human history. Quality has been the driving force for all the human endeavor. Quality is the inspiration for transcendence from the mundane to the higher realms of life. Quality is the source of craving behind the unfolding human civilization. So we all know this, that quality has been the goal of eternal quest, quality has been the driving force, quality has been the inspiration, quality is a source of craving. Yet Yet, my dear friends, yet it has successfully eluded the dragnet of definitions, proving the inadequacy of human intelligence. Proving the inadequacy of human intelligence. And the most interesting part is quality stares at you. Quality stares at you. You recognize it, but you cannot define it. Quality stares at you, you recognize it, but you cannot define it. Let me put it this idea with an example. For example, any length of description of the anatomical details of a fragrant and beautiful flower, its petal, its color, its shape, its size, fragrance, softness, and all put together, falls short of conveying its beautifully. Falls short of conveying its beauty in the full sense, fully. So beauty you cannot define. It is perceived, it is recognized. And therefore, my dear friends, my dear colleagues, when we are trying to reach the ultimate aim of quality in education, we need to understand this kind of situation. And so what we can do then we need to understand quality in different sense. For example, functional utility of the product. For example, degree of fitness for purpose and function. For example, conformance of educational output. Conformance of educational output to planned goals, to specifications, to requirements. Then excellence in education is quality. Then defect avoidance in education process is quality. Then fitness of educational outcome and experiences of use. So if I say functional utility of the outcome, quality hai. If I say degree of fitness for purpose and function, degree of fitness. So as much as keeping in view the degree of fitness for purpose and function, that will be having quality. Conformance of educational output to planned goals, specification and requirements, quality. Excellent education will be leading towards quality. Defect avoidance will be leading towards quality. Fitness of educational outcome and experience will be leading towards quality. So we need to understand this essence of quality. Now, my dear friends, coming to the basic purpose of our deliberation, that we are going to reimagine the curriculum and pedagogy specifically in relation to NEP 2020. Since we are going to see in relation to NEP 2020, what I personally suggest, number one is to decode national education policy first. Decode national education policy. And I'm using this term intentionally, decoding national education policy 2020. Why? Because when you will be trying to decode it, you will be in a position to understand the intent and content of education policy 2020. Intent and content. So decoding is very important. So when I'm saying decoding, let me begin with the 5 pillars on which this particular policy is based. I have come across many teachers, faculty members, professors who are having sufficient significant understanding on policy, but they are not aware on these pillars on which this. And in order to make yourself clear on more on pillars, you can refer the draft of 2019 on which this 2020 document is based. Draft of 2019, National Education Policy Draft 2019. So when I'm saying decoding, let me begin with the 5 pillars on which this policy document is based. What are those 5 pillars? The pillar number 1 is access. The pillar number 2 is equity. The pillar number 3 is quality. The pillar number 4 is affordability. And the pillar number 5 is accountability. So access, equity, quality, affordability, and accountability. My dear friends, one of my teacher used to say that when you don't want to use your head, use overhead. One of my teacher used to say, when you don't want to use your head, use overhead. That is PPT. So generally, when I want to use my head, I don't use overhead. So my dear friends, if you allow me, in order to make my ideas in a right perspective, I would like to share four slides with you, only 4 slides with you, which I had prepared long back for some program at Port Blair. So let me share, give me 1 minute. Do you have any provision of tea break in your program?
Yes, sir.
At 3:30.
At 3:30. Okay.
Yeah.
So by the time I'll be over with this, let me. Yes, I have got it. So, my dear friends, let me share this with you. Can you see my screen now? Anyone can reply.
Yes,
Yes, sir.
Fine. Thank you. So I have prepared this 4 slides, and since you all are teachers, so I need not to say that. Try to understand the message. Don't go on my words. Don't go on my pictures. Just try to catch the message. So this is a very common picture available at Google. This is very common picture available at Google. If you can see this picture at Google. So what this picture is showing? You can consider him as a principal, as a dean, as a vice chancellor, whatever you can say. He's a very honest and very fair person. He is sitting there, and he is now has opened his campus for admission. So now what he's saying, for a fair selection, everybody has to take the same exam. What is that exam? What is exam? Please climb that tree. So whosoever will be climbing that tree will be considered as successful and will be given admission. And I have shown this picture to you because I am sure you must be aware of this case, Malvika Joshi case of Mumbai. Malvika Joshi was a girl from Mumbai who could not clear her 12th examination, and then she appeared in Delhi IIT for seeking admission. Delhi IIT rejected her case, and then she applied in MIT. So when she applied in MIT, MIT gave her admission. So aware people went to MIT and asked why you have given this girl admission to this girl. She is not having class 12. So I don't know what MIT replied. I am telling from my own understanding, from my own ideas, and I'm exaggerating the response of MIT from my own side. So MIT must have replied that fools, we didn't see whether she is 12th or not, whether she's failing Hindi or she's failing English or she's failing math. What we saw is the girl was having Olympiad certificate in computer programming, and we are going to nurture this talent of this girl. And see, now MIT, everybody, now you can imagine these what kind of institution it is. Massachusetts Institute of Technology, now America, that Massachusetts Institute of Technology will be teaching our girl will be preparing softwares for them. They will be selling that softwares to India, and we will be sitting in our canteen discussing that dollars are rising and rupees are falling. That is bound to happen. Second, I'm going to share one picture. I'm going to share a picture of a student who is going to educational institution in the morning, and when after all classes are over, how he comes back. So when he's going to institution, he seems like this, and when he returns after all classes, he comes like this. So whatever institutions are missing, this will give you insight so far as pedagogical revisiting is concerned. I am showing you another picture. This is the picture of a student who has taken admission, very fresh admission. How seems, she seems, and after completion of all the semesters, if it is a 2-semester course, 2 semester, 4-semester course, 4 semester. So after finish, so at the beginning of education institution, he seems like this innocent, cute, and once he's ending this institution, he seems like this, perplexed, confused. So what can be done to make our students develop professional as well as humane? Professional as well as humane. One more I would like to share with you. I was traveling to Coimbatore 3 years back. My transit flight was from Mumbai airport. At Mumbai airport, this was the hoarding. I saw, and immediately I clicked that picture. Now you can see the content of this picture. 100-year-old university may not prepare you for the next 10. 100-year-old university may not prepare you for the next 10. We do. So as soon as I saw this picture, I immediately clicked that picture. I returned to Shantiniketan. That time I was serving in Shantiniketan, and there I sent this picture to my vice chancellor with a comment that this is a clear slap on our face. And when I referred this statement and I related this statement with our accountability. So these 4 slides I just wanted to share with you. Okay, let me, since I taught in Shantiniketan for a longer duration of time, I would like to share one more thing with you, and that is a video version of a story of Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore, where the title of the story is The Parrot's Training. Let me share with you if it functions properly. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this is the animated version of, this is a very famous story.
Next chapter, we have a short story written by Tagore.
Just tell me whether you are in a position to hear the voice.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Voice we can.
Yes,
hear.
sir, we can hear.
Okay. Watch the story then.
We have a short story written by Tagore. In the next chapter, we have a short story written by Tagore, which is The Parrot's Training. It is a great parody of our system of education.
Once upon a time, there was a parrot. It was ignorant. It sang all right, but never recited scriptures and lacked manners. The Raja felt that the parrot must be trained. His nephews were ordered to give the parrot sound training. The Pandit suggested that a golden cage would help, since its natural habit of living in poor nests was the cause of ignorance. The goldsmith made a golden cage. The scribes and Pandits wrote innumerable manuscripts to transmit the knowledge to the parrot. The nephews, Pandits, goldsmith, and scribes were rewarded with gold and rare jewels. The Raja was satisfied that there was no flaw in the arrangement. As for any complaints from the bird itself, that simply could not be expected. Its throat was so completely choked with leaves from the books that it could neither whistle nor whisper. It sent thrills through one's body to watch the process. The bird crawled on, duly and properly, except when the morning light peeped, it sometimes fluttered its wings. "What impertinence," said the Kotwal. This was not part of his prescribed curriculum. His wings were clipped and the blacksmith chained the parrot. The Kotwal and the blacksmith were honored with titles. The bird died. The rumor of its demise reached the Raja's palace. With much paraphernalia of trumpets, pomp, and pageantry, the Raja came to visit the grand school of education. He called his nephews and asked them, "My dear nephews, what is this that we hear?" The nephews said, "Sire, the bird's education has been completed." "Does it hop?" the Raja inquired. "Never," said the nephews. "Does it fly?" "No." "Bring me the bird," said the Raja. The bird was brought to him by the Kotwal and the sepoys. The Raja poked the parrot's body with his finger. Only its inner stuffing of book leaves rustled.
We assume that if we make a cage for classrooms and buildings, if we give stuffings or books, syllabus, examination and everything, we assume that the child is learning. It is a great story through which all the students and teachers learn not to become like the teachers of the parrot.
So this was a parrot's training so with this story, and now I will be discussing trying to revisit start by decoding the national education policy, and I started with the 5 pillars: access, equity, quality, affordability, accountability. So now I will be taking it up after this tea break, the next session. So duration of tea break is 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll be meeting at 3:45. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the patient here.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Thank you, sir.